Did you tell your story in Alvin too here recently a while back, or
I did, yeah.
you did? I thought so. Yeah,
Hey,
yeah.
hold on real quick. Hey, how about now, guys? Are we getting? Can you hear us?
I can hear you.
I'm trying to. Okay, now let's start over. Okay, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt or anything like that. But as always, your host is Enrique Ricky Cruz.
And Raul Moreno, my co-host, and my other co-host, Ronnie Molinator. Yeah, I like that, man. It's like you're like a rap artist, man.
Like
Right?
Terminator.
That Terminator,
That's right.
yeah. Well, you should wear your glasses, bro.
I'll wear 'em.
You should wear your glasses, yeah.
I'll be back.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
right.
I'll be back. I'll be back. So what'd you do this weekend, man?
Just relax, man. And
Yeah?
got some stuff done
You
with the
said that the
house.
same weekend,
Well, we
last
went-
weekend.
Well,
You relaxed?
We went and supported Ernesto, our brother.
Who?
Ernesto.
Oh, okay.
We were wondering where you were at, so you were at MIA.
I was actually out of town, and I was out taking care of business.
Oh,
Yes, I had
okay.
business in Austin. Yes.
Now,
Mhm.
family time is what it's about.
Yeah,
man.
family
Nothing-
time. I
nothing wrong with
actually
that.
I went. You know, I'm going to tell you something. I took a leap, and it's actually something that I haven't done in a long time, or I've never done actually. The day before I'm supposed to leave on a little vacay with my two daughters, my roof started leaking. It started leaking terribly. I mean, it was pouring down, right? Pouring down, and I'm like, you know what? In normal Ricky behavior, I would say, forget the trip, forget everything. Business comes first. You know what I mean? The shop comes first with my family. It was always that way. And when I went to go see, because I see a therapist on Thursdays, Fridays, uh, I said, man, I tell you what, I'm very proud of you. Where you from? Man, I'm going to, even though I have shit going on. He said, what's going on? I said, my roof is leaking terribly. Terribly? I said, yes. Oh my God. And I'm still going there. Call the roofer. He's they're taking care of it. And if he doesn't, when I come back, and then that's why I have insurance. That's why you know what I mean. And then from there, well, I pay a lot of money to do it. Yeah, so I went. Uh, relax, roll with it. Man, don't downplay it, bro. You got back to the gym. Yeah, that's a big deal. That is a big deal, man. Me too. I mean, peer pressure in a positive way now, man. I used to peer pressure people with you. Yeah, and alcohol now. Peer pressure, that's fucking weird. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. You it's a hey, that's a luxury to get old, man. I don't have hey, but listen,
We do have a special guest. First of all, and we have a great guest here today. She's a warrior. Warrior. Seems like she's here. For sure.
yeah. Hey, yeah, introduce yourself to us. Andrea. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Andrea. Andrea. You mean you got clean by your program that going to right? Not oh you were incarcerated. Right. But I thought you could keep those in prison. I mean, it's a little different. Okay. Uh, what brings you to the room right after getting out of coming out into the free world? What can you tell us? Let me ask you, and not to interrupt you, Mullinator, but can you tell us a little bit about like me when I was a younger guy? Because see, I'm still young.
Yeah, you
I don't
are.
know, yeah, if y'all know
Hey.
this yet. I know you say I'm not, but I feel young. When I was a kid, man, I always felt that I was different.
Yeah.
I felt that I was different because when I started to drink, I was just drinking. I always drank too much. I would blank out. I would offend people. I would wake up from fights, either getting beat up or torn shirt or whatever. And then I always offended family members. And I always had to say I was sorry to somebody and
Mhm.
apologize. And man, it was always the same thing.
Right.
Tell us a little bit about the beginning where Andrea started to notice that there was something different about your behavior with alcohol, that you weren't using or drinking like everybody else.
Well, to be honest, when I was younger, my parents were my mom was an addict. She suffered from addiction. My dad also sold drugs.
Okay.
Those things were before I was born, but
So
then,
your mom used and your dad sold.
yeah,
That was good. That's a good combination,
exactly,
wasn't it?
right, right. It
I mean,
was
it
great.
kind of worked out.
Perfect setup for
Yeah.
a miniature addict.
And,
Yeah.
and this is just a joke
It
for
is, yeah,
anybody
yeah, yeah.
watching. So
My mom's
anyway,
been
go ahead.
clean 26 years now, so
Amazing.
it's great. Yeah.
Amazing.
But growing up, like my parents would always like, "Hey, have a taste of this White Russian," like we'd be like, "Oh, can I have a sip?" And like we would kind of like, drink as a child, and it kind of just progressed later on. Like when I was in my childhood, I remember being like 12 or 13 and like sneaking to grab my mom's alcohol out of her fridge.
Mhm.
Sorry.
Yeah, it was
know,
me.
It was me.
Yeah.
And getting my little sisters drunk with me, and just like pushing that onto them as
But
well.
that was fun.
It
It was
was.
cute. It was fun. It wasn't
Yeah.
like kind of innocent.
Yeah,
It was nothing.
was.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Okay.
so it became a problem. My first time using was I was about 18.
Uh-huh.
Starting off with
You would think that you used younger. You didn't use any kind of substance before that, like 13. I've heard some people were at 10 and 9 were you smoking weed. No?
well, I got pregnant when I was 15.
Okay.
So I didn't really have the luxury of that. And up until I started using, I was like a straight A student. Like I just was like by the book. I was like, oh, I want to impress my family. Like I said, my mom suffered from addiction, so I was always afraid to follow that path.
You saw what it did to her
It did,
early
yeah,
on. How old were you when you were experiencing that? How about roughly, just like 9 or 10 or
I was about 8, between 8
so
and 10.
you were, yeah.
Yeah, it was really bad too.
You remember that?
Oh,
you
yeah.
remember seeing
Very
it.
vividly. Yeah. I mean, it was very, very like extensive like drug use in our home. Like my mom, we lost everything actually.
Really?
Yeah, when we were kids, my mom would sometimes, go on these binges and whatnot. And there's a couple times where we were like walking to soup kitchens and such things as that, and it just was really a struggle for like I had two younger sisters, and like we went through this together. Like there was times we had no electricity and whatnot, so witnessing that at that age, you never want to think about growing up and being like, hey, I want this life.
Your
for me.
sisters were younger.
They are. We're a year
They're
apart.
younger. They're
Yeah.
younger than you. So,
So-
you kind of would it be safe to assume that you kind of played Mother Goose
I
to
did.
them when your mom was using?
Shielded
you
and everything
did?
like
You
that.
did?
I did. And
Tell
that's
us about that.
Yeah. I feel like in a sense where my addiction kind of started because I never really had a childhood. Right. So like
Really?
I went through this addiction with my mother and, and then I got pregnant when I was 15.
Right.
Right. So like my childhood was like robbed and then like, then I became a mother.
Right.
So when I had the opportunity and drugs were, presented in my life, I was like, oh, this is fun.
This is awesome.
This is great. Oh
Yeah,
my gosh, I want
yeah.
to do this. I'm just going to have fun,
Mhm.
and that's where it started. It was just like a weekend thing. And, my mom would watch my son during, the weekends or whatnot. And like, he'd go to his dad's house.
Was
and
your
so-
mom clean at that time?
Yeah,
Or
she
did-
was.
She had got clean.
She got clean whenever so I'm from New York.
Okay.
That's where I was born and raised.
Really?
I was there till I was 10.
Hmm.
And then we moved to Texas with my aunt and uncle. My dad sent us here to have like a better start and everything like that. And when my mom realized that her kids were out of state, she was like, I'm coming to get my kids back. Like, you're my kids. And she got clean and she's been clean ever since then. So she moved here about a year after we did.
Mhm.
So she moved here when I was about 11
Mhm.
and she's been clean since then.
Wow.
So yeah, it's really amazing. So
And did she follow a 12-step program?
I know when she first got clean, she was going to AA meetings,
Mhm.
and she actually is the one who suggested like NA and AA to me at the very beginning of my addiction.
Mm.
So
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So she does know about the program, and she did kind of follow a 12-step program.
Yeah,
Either
for sure.
AA or NA. I
Yeah,
think they're both
definitely,
great.
yeah,
You
for
know what I
sure,
mean?
yeah.
Any questions, Mr. Molinator, for our
Do
guest?
you believe that genes play a part in addiction and recovery?
Personally, I kind of do. I mean, there's 3 of us in my family. 2 of us were kind of addicts, and one of them was like, "Fuck that." Is it okay if I
Yeah,
Okay,
absolutely.
okay.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, say what you want.
They're-
Uh,
Yeah, so my sister, myself, and my middle sister have kind of struggled with addiction,
uh-huh.
but my youngest sister has never even touched weed or anything like that. She's
Mm.
occasional drinker, and
Mhm.
she's fine. Like she's great. She's
Mhm.
got 2 degrees. She has a beautiful house. Like she saw my parents, she saw my sister and I, and she was like, "Fuck that life." Like definitely
Right.
not. You know what I mean?
Completely away. Yeah.
Exactly.
I'm staying away from that.
Yeah. So yeah, I do think that plays a big part, your upbringing. Now,
Mhm.
not to say like you have to choose that path, but
Right.
sometimes it happens, right? So
Mhm.
Yeah, I know for me, it's on both sides of my family,
right.
alcoholics and drug addicts. But then you look at like my uncles and stuff, they struggle with it. And then my dad, he's like a straight arrow.
Right,
So like
yeah.
I don't know if it skips a generation. Like
Right.
Dude, I think it
I don't
might.
really
And what do
know.
you think, Raul? What do you think about that? Because it's been an ongoing question that a lot of us have different opinions, and I want to hear yours. What do you think?
Man, I hope I hope it's not. Well, okay, so my mother was a bad drinker.
Uh-huh.
My brother was one too,
Mhm.
and I mean, is one.
Right.
And damn, I put his business all out there.
Yeah. that's right,
Yeah,
yeah.
and then myself. But hopefully, our kids see what we did wrong
Mhm.
and don't want to follow us in that path. I hope.
But they could still have the disease. Here's the deal. Some kids
The
make better
disease.
choices. Like some of my kids are, I'm not going to say one is smarter than the other, but they react differently. I'm thinking that my youngest is not going to take that chance. She probably sees what is caused in my life and could cause in her life. And she's going to go, no, man, that doesn't mean she doesn't have the monster inside of her.
Yeah.
Right.
Right,
Because
yeah.
she could wake that monster up. And I'm sorry, Mr. Engineer, he doesn't like me to bang on. That doesn't mean she doesn't have the monster in her, because we could open that monster up, man. And you know what I'm saying? She could have that in her, but if she doesn't open that door, it will never come out. Because
Exactly.
that's what we do when we're getting clean, and while we're staying in recovery, we're keeping that monster at bay.
Yeah.
Man. We're keeping him in. We just like we say, hey, I'm there. You know what I mean? I'm just keeping his ass in check. I'm keeping him in there under lock and key, and I got to stay strong. I have to stay vigilant. I have to keep going to meeting and doing this aftercare,
Yeah.
this maintenance, going to Tiki Torch organizations, going to doing, work. What do they call this? Surface work. You know what I mean? All that. It takes
Conventions, all
time.
that good
Conventions,
stuff.
all that.
Yeah.
Staying around recovering addicts.
Exactly.
That's part of the deal.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, a lot of people go through the situation, like they go through, okay, I'm an addict, and then they stay clean for a month or 2 months, 3 months, and like, fuck it, I'm cured,
Mhm.
Exactly.
and
Mhm.
that's when they a lot fall back into even years.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And this is why, I mean, dude, is for me, when I lost my dad, when I lost my dad, a lot of people were worried about me that I was going to be so distraught, so hurt, and so out of kind of like not thinking straight, that I would want to cure myself with something, because we want to change the way we
Of
feel,
course.
right?
Yeah.
And what's the best way? Well, the easiest way is just go to the store, pick up one drink, and
And then
go,
it's
look,
on.
and just have one drink, man.
Yeah.
And that's it. And that's where it starts. But following a program and having the people that we love and that love us, that we can call upon, and they answer the phone. That's why they say if they don't answer the phone, call 10 people.
Exactly.
Somebody will call you back. You
Mhm.
know what I mean? Somebody will call you back. And I think that's part of it. I do think, and you asked that question, I think I do think it's kind of, let me see if I say the word right, hereditary.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
I think
Mhm.
it kind of is. I think genes has something, but not the actual addiction, but the obsession
Yep.
for anything. Because I'm going to tell you, I don't know if y'all know this, man, but me, I obsess over shit. I obsess. If I go have a hamburger at a restaurant and I love the way they set it up,
Mhm.
I want it just like that every time I go back, and I want the exact same thing over and over and over again, man. You know what I mean? And it goes for everything, every single thing in my life, and my wife will attest to that. She gets frustrated because when I find one thing, I just want it that way, and I don't want it any other way. When I get it any other way, I get fucking pissed.
Right.
You know what I
right,
mean?
Definitely.
Yeah. And but anyway, that's my opinion about that deal.
Andrea, quick question.
Yeah.
Do you feel like it's easier to stay clean now than it was when you first got clean? Does it get harder or does it get easier?
You know what? I think it gets easier. But we're not really. I feel like sometimes like we're not really tested until something tragic happens. Like you were talking about your father passing away.
Right.
That was one of my reservations. If somebody in my family dies, would I be able to stay clean? Right.
Yeah.
Because death has always been a trigger for me. I've relapsed over people dying. Like one of my best friends died and I'd been clean and I relapsed. So, I feel like my recovery was tested when my father passed away, because that was like a huge, that person was so important to me in my life, and I was like, you know what? I need to go to a meeting. The day after my father passed, my home group was like, you need to come in here now. Like you need to be
When
here.
your father passed away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In to be honest, the split second of using did cross my mind, but it wasn't like I need to get drugs right now. It was like I need to numb this pain. I don't want to feel this way. Like I don't want to feel this suffering and grief, because I've never felt this before.
Yeah.
Right. I've
Yeah.
always numbed it. And so that was my first time going through that process clean. I was like,
Yeah.
oh my God, I can't believe I'm doing this. Right. So yeah, I think it kind of depends on the situation, right? Until we actually go through something that's going to kind of test our recovery. Like then you can say, hey, I made it through this. And like, then it's a small things like, okay, if I made it through something like that, I can definitely make it through this bullshit. Right.
I didn't want to use when my father passed away, but what I did want to do, I remember, I told Lisa and told my kids that I did want to hurt myself.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I did. I was,
Yep.
I missed an exit on the highway in Clear Lake Boulevard. I missed the exit, and I almost hit this wall. And I was like, man, I wish I would have hit that motherfucker.
Right.
I was hurting, man. I was hurting bad. My dad had just passed away the day before, and we had wheeled him out. Man, I still have that memory in my mind. We wheeled him out, covered up, man, from the ruin into the hearse.
Yeah.
I don't know how I got through with that, man. I don't know how I got through, but I remember the next day I was going back up to the hospital. My dad was no longer there, but I thought he was. I was going there. and they had already moved them, and I missed that exit. I almost hit that. I remember going, man, I should have hit it. It would have been so easy.
Easy way out,
Yeah,
right?
easy way out.
Definitely.
But I'm gonna tell you, man, my children. I thought about my kids at the time. I was like, no, man, I gotta fight for them.
Exactly.
I gotta fight for them. And I'm gonna share this story. I'm gonna share this really quick. I remember that we had my dad in the we're doing, what do they call not a showing, you know, his body's there at the church.
The memorial
viewing.
service,
The
yeah.
viewing. We had my dad there. After the viewing, my sponsor, Eugene, still lived at the time. He died 4 months later.
Shout out to Eugene.
Eugene, right on.
Eugene.
So I remember he even showed up, man, in a wheelchair
That's
to my dad's
awesome.
viewing. Yeah, he supported me so much, man. So we were at the viewing, and then we finished up and everything. And I remember I got in the car. I had Robert and my 2 little girls in the back, and we were gonna meet at a restaurant to eat, to gather up and eat with family and all that. And I cracked a joke in the car. I don't remember what freaking stupid joke I said to Robert and the girls. And I started laughing, by myself, and we're driving off. And my kids were like, I remember they're kind of quiet. And Robert's like, hey, Dad, listen, Dad, I'm really proud of you. I was like, yeah, about what? He says, you know what, Dad, I expected you to be just torn apart on the ground. And I thought I was worried for you that
Yeah.
you were going to be just falling apart to pieces. I said, Dad, I'm glad that you're taking Grandpa's death. Okay. I felt like a piece of shit. At that time, I was like, oh my God, I'm a bad son, man. I should be apart. I should be coming apart at the seams. But it was the recovery, dude.
Exactly.
It was the recovery
Yeah.
that was holding me together,
Totally.
So did
Yeah.
you experience anything like that?
I did, my recovery is what held me together.
Yeah.
I mean, I was having some major meltdowns, screaming tantrums, screaming for my dad over and over. It was so unexpected. I didn't expect that. It was right before I had 18 months clean. So, it was,
Wow.
it was definitely shocking. But like I said, the next day after it happened, I was in my home group,
Mhm.
and they called me every day. People were bringing me food every day. I mean, people were picking me up for meetings. They're like, you need to be in the meetings. You need to be here, because everybody was really worried about me, especially my family. Like, they know, my family knows me, my son was so worried,
Mm.
he's 20 years old. So he was just like, Mom, just whatever you do, like, it's going to be okay. Like, I'm here for you. Like, your family's here for you. Like, you have your support group. He's like, just don't use. Okay.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
Wow, that's awesome. That is awesome.
So
Yeah.
for me, I know that early in recovery, like I had my stepdad was diagnosed with cancer
Sorry to hear
probably
that.
3 months into me getting clean.
Mm,
And he was always one of my biggest supporters.
right.
And then he passed.
Mm.
And, but I was able, it's crazy because I just think about our 3 stories right here. And it seems like something traumatic happened, but it had a reverse effect. Like it motivated us.
It did.
And that's the beauty of recovery, because you can use a bad situation as a good
Mm-hmm.
or a bad. And so for you, like your dad and Eugene and my stepdad and your dad, it just shows how far we've come as individuals, because that was one of my reservations. Like
Right.
something happens to him, I'm hitting the road.
Yeah.
And God seen it fit that we just kept on the path and kept doing what we were supposed to do. And that's what's recovery's worth for me.
Yes.
Because even in the hardest times, we keep moving forward no matter what.
Exactly.
And that's the beauty of it.
Perseverance.
Right.
Yeah. And my thought was, if I use everything my dad's worked so hard for these last 18 months,
Yeah.
everything he's sacrificed for me would be
Mhm.
in vain.
For
Like
him,
he
for
pushed
nothing.
me to do all these dreams and like become who I want to be. And he was like so supportive. And I was like, you know what? Why give all that away?
Mhm.
Because my dad can still see me every day.
Right.
Right. And I can still talk to him every day. It might not be physical, but it's spiritual. Right.
Mhm.
So yeah, definitely.
I remember when I was talking to Ricky, and I'll say it real quick.
Take your time.
My stepdad said something to me right before he passed that and I said this when I told my story on here, but he told me because he knows how much he motivated me, because he was a recovering alcoholic and
That's
he had like
great.
25 years. So
Wow.
he knew that I was watching him,
Mm-hmm.
but he told me, he said, don't quit on me. And like that has just drove me for the past 13, like I don't want to let them down. And not only do I not want to let myself down, I
Yeah.
don't want to let the people that actually believed in me when I didn't believe in myself at all.
Yeah,
I don't just do it for me. I do it for the people that love me
exactly.
and stuck by me
Right.
and said, you know what? One day at a time, you can stay clean. The lie is that we do recover.
You know, I'm
Just
gonna
for
tell you,
today.
yeah, you know, I'm gonna tell you something else too, dude. I feel, and maybe I don't know about you guys, I feel like I think I grew up a little more after my dad passed away.
Oh,
You know
yeah.
what? I'm gonna tell you something that I experienced. After my dad passed away, I really felt alone, man. I really felt alone. I mean, alone in the sense of, I mean, Lisa and I, we weren't married yet. I had my children, I had my other family, but I had made such a wedge, if that's the word I'm looking for, between my brothers and my mom. It was still kind of really rocky. And actually, Lisa and I's relationship was still was really rocky at the time too. Yeah, kind of like it is now. And then,
That's
but
not
it was
true.
worse then. It was worse then.
That's
But
not true.
you want to come over sometime?
Lisa's right
Yeah,
here. Just
Lisa's
so
right here,
everybody
so
She
knows.
can verify it. So
She can verify it. Listen to them.
fact check me.
The lie's dead.
Yeah, the lie's dead.
We do
Yeah,
recover.
yeah, that's right.
We, not
We.
I.
Yeah.
We.
Exactly.
But what I was saying was, I forgot what I was saying. Oh, did I?
The wedge.
No, not really alone. Yes, kind of alone. I was, you know, my dad actually, he not babysat me, but he babied me a lot.
Mm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Dude, he always would come to the rescue. Dude, I was a screw up. I know it's hard for you to believe, especially you, that I was a screw up back then, right? But say no.
It's not where you start, it's where you finish.
Oh, right,
Exactly, I
exactly.
love
Right.
that,
But
totally.
you know why? My dad always, and this is something that my other brothers and sisters had against my father, because he would always come to my rescue.
Yeah.
I mean, I was the most gentle. Yeah, I was a monster and I did some crazy shit, but I loved with all my heart, man. I love my father. I love people. I help people on the street back when I wasn't even using, before I even became addicted, you know.
Yeah.
I would be the first one to give. I was a tear motherfucker up at the same time. You know what I
Right,
mean? I
right.
was both. But my dad would always come to my rescue. And after he passed away, I said, you know what? I better get it together. I'm talking about, and Lisa's my witness, man. Shortly after, I don't know if you can think back, 5 a.m. every morning. And I would get to the shop, my little shop, and I would open it up early. I said, you know what? It's time. It's time, man. First one there, last one to leave. And my dad always wanted me to work hard. And that's what I do today, man. I
Yeah.
feel like, you know, my dad is watching me and I want him to be finally proud of me.
Right.
I want him to finally say, this is what I wanted from you, dude.
The whole time.
This is the whole time.
Yeah.
This is why, you know, you were like, Ricky. It was always Ricky, and he always worried about me. We had a guest one time, and I won't mention any names. Grant was here last week, and he said something about, he said that, hey, that somebody said that I never stole nothing from nobody, right? That's what he said. But my response was, to me, that I stole. I also didn't think that I stole anything, any valuables, any money, and from people, my family and friends, right? But I stole something more important, Andrew. You know what it was? It was the time that I took away, and the sleep that I took away from my parents and my loved
And
ones.
the peace.
The peace.
You know what I mean?
I stole that from them, man. That I can't give. Well, I don't know. Maybe
Exactly.
we can give it back somehow, right?
In our
Tell me
recovery.
about that.
I think, you know, doing the next right thing, recovering, living your best life can pay back some of that lost time. You know, like
Mhm.
when my dad was alive, I was telling him I was sorry. I was like, I'm so sorry. Like, I'm so sorry for everything I've done to you. This is my last time, this go around. And he was like, don't be sorry. Stop saying you're sorry. Just
So you did have that chance with him to talk to
I
him.
did.
You did.
He
Wow.
was like, just show me. He's like, just
Yeah.
show me. That's all I want from you. He's like, we can't change the past. Just show me. The last thing my dad actually told me on our way to work on the Sunday when he passed away, out of the blue, he just looks at me. He was like, Biscuit. That was my nickname.
Biscuit.
He was like, Biscuit, I'm just so proud of you. He was
Wow.
like, I'm just so proud of you. I was like, okay, Dad. He was like, no, I'm serious. And I was like, okay, I'm not really doing anything yet. He goes, you just got your adjuster's license. He's like, you're on the right path. I was like, okay, Dad, calm down, you know. But he was just like saying that to me just like over and over, you know,
Mhm.
and just how much he loved me. And he was just so grateful that he got to see me clean finally. Right.
You gave him 18 months?
I did. Yeah.
Wow, man, that's
So-
awesome. What I gave my dad a little under 2 years, 2 weeks shy of 3 years.
That's so awesome.
Yeah, and I'm gonna tell you that's the only medallion I don't have. My 3 year when I rejected it. In fact, I went into the group. I don't know if you know the story, but I went into the group and motherfucked everybody there.
Yeah.
He was one
I
of
was
them.
there.
Right. You were there?
I was there.
I don't remember. I was really upset. Sorry. I went in and after my father passed away, I put Lisa through shit because I went into what would you call it? Reclusion? Huh?
Isolation.
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 I didn't isolate because I was going to work. I was going to work my ass off. And this is at work was when I was most happy. Not happy, but I could forget. I was just working. I'd come
Focus.
home. Yeah, I would come home and sit on the couch. I would sit on the couch and watch TV. And she would sit next to me. This happened for months. I wouldn't even talk to her. And then, I wasn't going to meetings or nothing. And then finally, Eugene, she told me, she says, she goes, I think I have to get out. I'm going crazy. And I was like, you fucking bitch. I told her, remember? I said, you know what? Yeah.
Sorry.
I said,
Thanks,
sorry,
Rob.
That was
yeah,
late.
a little
Yeah.
late. Yeah. We have a delayed response from our engineer. Yeah. I said, man, I can't believe I'm going through this and you're gonna walk out on me, man. And I called Eugene. I did it when I was working the program. I called Eugene, man. He says, Cat Daddy, man, you can't hold her back, man. Let her go, man. You go ahead and what did he call what you do when you grieve?
Yeah.
Grieve at your own time, man. You go out when you're ready. He goes, I'm here for you.
That's awesome.
But don't do that to her.
Yeah.
And she did. She started going to her church group or started going somewhere now. And I sat back and then I said, okay, it's time for me to get out. The first thing I did was go motherfuck everybody at her group over there. I went to the group and I think Andre and Terry and you were there and everybody was there, right?
Terry said when you left.
And I'm getting to that.
Okay.
Yeah. So I was we have a heckler in the audience, by the way. Is that
Yeah.
okay?
Yeah.
So after I said, like you ever seen the movie what's the one where the guy's like, fuck you, fuck you, fuck
You're
you. What was that?
cool.
Yeah, you're cool. You know what I mean? I think I said that to Ronnie. But no,
Half
you're
baked.
one, yeah.
Perfect. Yeah.
And so and then I was gonna walk out and I was gonna right before I opened the door, Terry goes, we love you, Ricky. I was like, I respect Terry. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? All
of
my
course.
respects and love for her. And I was gonna turn around. I felt like saying something. I was like, you're the one that thought it was cool, man. And I walked out and these guys came out but you remember that, Ronnie? What'd you think about that? By the way, you've never given me your thoughts about that.
I believe it was a growth spurt. It had to happen that way.
Yeah.
And I believe God breaks us down so he can build us back up.
I love that. Yeah, totally.
Let me,
You have to go through pain in order to change. Without no pain, there's no change.
No pain, no gain, right?
Yeah.
Pretty simple.
Yeah. I want to hear more about the guests.
Andrea, yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Let's talk more. Let's ask y'all got questions for her.
Yeah.
Let's get more into her story.
Yeah, well, let's let her go ahead and lead, or go ahead tell us from the beginning.
Well, first,
Yeah,
off,
we were jumping everywhere.
before we do that, let me tell you, you got an amazing support system right here. Everybody's
Awesome.
telling you.
We have
how much-
questions.
No, it's just a lot of love. You got love from Justin. Is it your husband?
That's my husband.
Yeah. Brandy, Erica, Rodney, Amy. They're all just telling you how much they're proud of you and that they love you.
That's great. I love you guys too.
All right. Well, tell us your story, Andrea. That's what you're here for. And I guess we're in the second half of the show, so take the lead.
Okay.
Tell us all about yourself.
So I guess I can start where I started using. Is that
Okay.
where I should start?
Sure.
Okay. So like I said, it kind of was just like a fun thing, right? Like I think that's where it all starts out, right? We don't just like start using drugs and be like, hey, I'm gonna ruin my life, I was very hesitant about
Mhm.
doing it just because of my mom. So I was like, I'm just gonna smoke weed.
Mm.
I'm never gonna do anything else, right? And so like I would go to these parties and I didn't want to drink. So I would smoke weed, right? And then, one day someone's like, hey, let's do some ecstasy. And I'm like, as long as it's not cocaine, because that's what my mom did, right?
It's really bad.
It's so bad. I'm
Yeah.
gonna get hooked on cocaine and ruin my life, right?
Yeah.
But ecstasy's fine, right?
Yeah.
Let's do that.
Yeah.
So yeah, started doing that, and it was like a weekend thing, and then it became Xanax, which I was a small spurt, and you know, all these things I was like, I'm not gonna do, right? Never say never. I've learned that the hard way, you know. Even about my recovery, I can't never say I'm never gonna use, right? Because I've said that before. And I hope and pray every day that I never use again, right? And that's the goal. But I never want to say never. So but yeah, anyway, so it started becoming like a weekend thing. And then one of these times I was on Xanax, someone introduced cocaine into my life. And that was the downward spiral right there. You know, that's where that's where my addiction started really, like it became out of control really quick.
So what was the first feeling by the first time you did cocaine? I'm interested in hearing that.
You know what? It was like great. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, don't lie.
I don't want to lie because I mean I would
Tell us about it.
Well, I was with my friends and they were like, hey, why don't you try this cocaine? And I was like, I can't. I'll be addicted.
You thought that, or you said it?
I know. I was like, my mom was addicted to cocaine at one point in her life, and I'm just so scared to do it. They're like, but you do this, this, and this, and this. Like, and you're not gonna. You're like, you're doing all these other drugs. Like, I was like, yeah, oh my god, you're so right.
It makes so much sense.
Why am I holding back so long?
Right.
So I tried it, and I was like, oh my god. Like, I remember just looking at it, and I was like, oh my god, and now I know why my mom loved this so much, right?
Yeah.
I'm like, I look so great.
Yeah.
I was so young. I'm looking in the mirror. I was like, I look so great.
Yeah.
My eyes huge, you know, like crazy, right? So then it was like, I also was a bartender too, right? So like a lot of the people I worked with in the restaurant industry did cocaine too. So like we would be like, hey, let's get a 20, like let's go to the bar after we get off work, right? And we'd be drinking and just like doing like, you know, lines and all that good stuff, right? And then it just became to a point where, like I said, it was like I need to do cocaine, right? So my son's father would get him 1 month like out of every summer, right? And so at this point I was like dabbling more into like the cocaine and whatnot. And so my son's father's like, hey, I'm gonna pick up Gavin this month, right? He's out of school. And so I was like, okay, cool. So for that month, like I went like ghost, like on my family. That was the first time like someone was like, where's Andrea? Like, what is she doing? Like,
were you living at home at the time?
I was living with my father actually.
Okay.
Yeah. So like me and my dad's always kind of like lived together off and on, like we bounce off like, you know, each other.
Right.
And so I went missing. Right. And so like everybody's looking for me. They're like posting about it, like, you know, calling the police and this and that. And I'm just on the beach living my best life. Right. Not really. It was horrible.
Right. It seemed like fun at the time.
It
though,
did. Right. Yeah. So then it became like every weekend I'm like, I have to do ecstasy and I have to do cocaine every weekend. Right. And then it just progressed into more and more and more. And I met somebody who sold drugs. And so then like, I was like, oh my God, yes, I love you. Right.
Yeah.
And it became like, you know, it consumed my life.
Right.
I was now doing it during the week, you know, like, and I was like, before I was like, I can't do it during the week. I have my son. Right. Now I'm like having to do it Monday, Tuesday. And like, I need to stay awake. My kid's going to be up soon. I have to take him to school. Right.
Yeah.
And it just progressed into that. And then, you know, I ended up overdosing. And then I was like, okay, I can't do this anymore. Right. But then it didn't stop. Like I ended up getting drinking and started doing it more. I've actually overdosed 11 times.
Really?
Yeah. On cocaine. It's a lot. Right. It became so crazy that I would go to these parties and I'd go to the bathroom and they're like, where's she going? I'm like, I'm going to the bathroom to pee. They're like, get her out of the bathroom, save her. She's going to overdose. Cause like I would go to the bathroom and overdose.
Really?
Yeah. It's crazy. So, yeah, like, and that, you know, at that point I'm still in denial, right? I'm just having fun. I'm 20 years old. I'm in my 20s. Right. And, I'm just doing me. Like, they're like, you're overdosing. You have a problem. I'm like, look, I can put the drugs down anytime I want. You know, anytime.
Isn't there a commercial that says that? Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
So when I was about, let's see, in 2011, that was the last time I did cocaine. I haven't done cocaine since then. I overdosed and I flatlined and I was in a hospital. I woke up in a hospital bed and just looking around, I woke up and then my mom and my son were there.
Really?
So yeah, I was just like, you know what? I can't do that. And I was an IV drug user as well. So that's where the main complications came into because I just was, you know, like just every day, all day. Right. So yeah, then I got clean for about 2 years without the program. My mom kept telling me to go to NA and I was like, no, I can't do this. I can't do this, blah, blah, blah. Right. And sometime between there also, I forgot to mention that I went to a psychiatric center. And still in denial. I still don't think I have a problem.
Right.
when I'm going to these meetings in there, I'm like hearing these stories and I'm like, oh my God, I would never do that. Oh my God, I am not an addict. What are they talking
What's
about?
wrong with them?
What? I would never do that. Everything they said they've done, I've probably done it in 10 times more, right?
Yeah.
Now.
Yeah.
Never say never.
Yeah. But then you hadn't.
I hadn't yet.
Okay.
No, yeah. And that was before like the overdosing too, right?
Right.
That was like me trying to kill myself in a desperate attempt for attention, right? Because like I said, I've never really been a child. So like throwing a tantrum and crying out for help was like using like a dull butcher knife.
Right.
Help.
Right.
Right. But I mean, it's just crazy, right? What the disease tells us, we're not worthy and whatnot, right? So anyways, I get clean for a little bit and then kept using when I was clean, I got clean for 2 years out of program. I went in there a couple times and I just was like, this isn't for me. I didn't want to do step work. I didn't want to get a sponsor. I was like, this is another business, like what I'm doing in my life. Like I can do this myself.
Right.
Oh, I got that ego, right? I'm stubborn, I'm prideful. Like I can do this all by myself, right? And I was like, my mom did. So anyways, I ended up relapsing, get drunk. I go to this bar and the first
what got you to the bar? Tell us how that came. I'm interested to hear how you went on that right before that 2 year. What made you decide to what situation did you mentally get into, and or did a friend go, hey, let's go to a bar? You've been clean, you'll be all right. Tell us about that.
Yeah.
How did you relapse? How did it lead up to the relapse?
Yeah. So basically like my friend calls and she's like, you're so boring now. Like you don't want to do anything. I'm like, yeah, I know. I'm just trying to work. And like I was going to school, right? I was trying to do some nursing classes. Like my mom's a nurse. And so I was trying to do the right thing. I wanted to like live my best life, right? My mom did it, I can do, right? Anyways, my friend's calling. She's like, come on, just come out for a drink. Like you don't have an alcohol problem. Like, and I'm like, I don't have any problem.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like nothing's wrong with me. I'm not using drugs right now because I don't want to.
Right.
If I do, I'll do. Right.
Yeah.
And so we end up going out and we get drunk. And the first thing that comes to my mind is like, I want cocaine.
Really?
Right. After like 2 years like of dying, overdoses, like that's the first thing that came to my mind. And so like I'm literally like walking up to people. I'm like, hey, do you have cocaine? They're like, what? I'm like, I'm just kidding.
Lady, you're at a church.
Yeah. You're at a meeting. What are you doing?
Do you have a cocaine? Excuse me.
I'm sorry. Praise God. Yeah. So I was.
So you going to people, person. Yeah.
Just like random people. Like I thought maybe use drugs.
They were cool. Yeah.
Yeah. They're like, no, sweetie. I'm like, okay, cool, right?
Yeah.
So like as I'm about to leave, I'm like, oh God, I can't get it. I'm just
y'all fucking boring.
Fuck.
It's
so
right.
I'm walking out and I see a friend that I used to do cocaine with, right? And I'm like, hey, you're the person I've been looking for. Where were you all my life?
Yeah.
All right. So he walks up to me. He's like, what's up, girl? Where you been? You know, we thought we were in jail. I was like, I've never even been to jail.
Yeah.
You know, like, what the hell? And so I was like, do you have some cocaine?
Yeah.
He was like,
let's stop the chit chat. Yeah.
He literally, I had just told him, I was like, oh, I've been clean for 2 years. I'm like, where's the cocaine?
Yeah.
And he was like, come to my van. And I'm like, okay, I'm coming. You know,
was it a white van?
It was a black van.
It was a black van. Those white vans, those black vans always get you.
Yeah, I did. I was like, oh, it's so scary, spooky, right? So I go to this van, right? And like, I'm waiting there and he's like busting out some stuff and it's like, and I'm like, that does not sound like cocaine. You know, he's like, it's not, it's meth. I was like, oh, I'm not doing meth. I will never do that. I'm not a meth head. No offense. I became one, so I can say that, right? And he was like, well, this is all I got. You can do this or get the fuck out of the van. Yeah. I was like, okay, let's do it. Let's do it, yeah. And, you know, a vicious cycle started all over, right? Started doing that. I was just smoking it at first, you know, snorting it. And then like people were like shooting it up. And I was like, I can't shoot up. I'll overdose. They're like, you don't overdose on meth. You just overamp. And I was like, oh.
Nice.
Let's do that. Yeah. You know?
Wait, is that true?
Yeah. So quick thing. For me, I can relate. I was an IV drug user myself. And did you ever wonder, like, it takes a lot of balls to stick a needle in your arm.
Oh, it does. Totally.
I mean, it's easy to smoke rock. I mean, I've done all that stuff, but like, you got to have some balls to put a needle in your arm.
Yeah.
And so when you got to that point, of course, we go back to what we do.
Right.
So even if we're doing another drug, we still want to use the same thing that got us high in the first place.
Exactly.
At that time, Did you know you were going to go back to the needle regardless of what it was?
I didn't think I was, because I was so scared to overdose. Like,
Right.
I was like, okay, if like I'm snorting it, I probably won't overdose, like I did before. Cause I mean, I overdosed a couple times snorting cocaine, but not like that. Like it was mainly overdosing from IV drug use. Right. And so I was like, okay, I'm just going to do it this way. But then I'm like going to these parties and like everybody's shooting up and I'm like, I want to shoot up so bad, and I'm watching these people and I'm like, nope, you're going to die. Like if you do that, you'll die. Right. And so everybody's like, you want to try it? Come on, let's try it. And I'm like, no, I don't want to overdose. You overamp. And I'm like, sign me up, make me some right now. And then it just started from there. There was no more smoking, no more snorting. It was just straight IV drug use again. Right. And did so much damage, I mean, I'm wearing long sleeves during the summer. Everybody's like, why are you so skinny? I'm like, I'm working out.
Yeah.
Body by
Hot works.
Body by meth.
Hot works.
Hot works. Yeah.
Hot works and how it works, right?
Yes, exactly.
And
Great combination.
She said body by meth.
Body by meth.
Yeah. So I'm like
That's a fucking commercial.
The
right
Jenny
there.
Crank diet.
Yeah. Exactly.
No joke though, right? Like
Yeah.
I'm already like a thin person, I'm 6 foot. I shouldn't be like 125 pounds, right? Like that's so skinny. And everybody's like, you look so bad right now. I'm like, y'all are just jealous
fucking
because y'all aren't
jealous, man.
skinny.
That's
Y'all are
right.
jealous because you're fat. It's
Yeah.
like, they're like, I'm not fat. Yes, you are.
Yeah.
Like you are fat.
Yeah.
Mind your own damn business. All
I know.
right. So it turned into that cycle. And, I always want to migrate to selling drugs because when I was first introduced to selling drugs, I was like, I don't have to pay for my drugs. Like I can do drugs for free. Right. And so like my mind always like my addiction leads me to like using. I'm like, I don't want to pay this much money for drugs. And so I'm always like, how do I get my drugs free? By selling drugs, right? And so that's where I always go to, right? So like within 6 months,
Somebody said that's meth up.
That's messed up.
it's a methy situation.
It's a methy situation.
So that's what it leads me to. So I start selling drugs, and like my meth stint was this time for this relapse was literally only 8 months, and then I was like going to prison, right? So I was shooting too much meth. I was selling way too much with somebody else, and I ended up getting pulled over because somebody set me up, and I got pulled over in Friendswood, and the Friendswoods were like, "Hey, get out of the car," and I'm like, "No." They're like, "Roll the window down," and I'm like, "No," and like they're like all these undercover like Friendswood police officers like bum rushed my car. They're like, "Get out of the fucking car right now!"
Get the car, no.
I'm like, I thought I was getting robbed, like because they were ski masks and like,
Really?
yeah, this is
No
like
shit.
the task force. Yeah, so like they've been watching
you
me.
were being watched.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They were watching like the people I hung out with and this and that. So like they're like, "Get out of the fucking car," and I'm like, "You're not getting my dope," right? And like they're behind me, and I was like, "Okay, should I run these people over?" You know? And because that's what I was thinking, right? Like, oh my god, I'm being robbed. Someone's trying to kill me. I got to get out of here. Let me kill them first. Right. So I get out of the car and they pull me to this truck and they pull off their ski masks and they're like undercover task force. I was like, oh my god, I thought y'all trying to rob me.
Hold on to my shit.
What a relief. What a relief.
Yeah.
I'm only going to prison. Thank God.
Andrea, so I was listening to what you were saying. You said that little 8-month period. So your addiction progressed very fast.
Yes.
Because we hear, when we hear in the rooms that people tell us, and we've all done it by experience.
Yeah.
But it progresses, man.
So quickly.
And then you just start right back where you left off, but then your body's not used to it.
Exactly.
So that's why a lot of us overdose early back into using because we're like, oh, I did that much before. Well, you forget about the abstinence. You haven't had none of that stuff in your body's not craving it anymore. So it causes a lot of problems.
Yeah, it does.
I want to know if you really believe that our families are just as sick as us. Do you believe that?
Yeah. My family, at this point, like I said, I was living with my father, and we had this garage apartment, and it was like the trap house, right? Like, and so like when my dad would be sleeping, I'm like, we had this like gate, sneak people back there, and I'm like, just gotta be quiet, my dad's sleeping, because we were actually roommates. It wasn't like we actually got this place together. Like we were like, hey, me and my dad, like I said, we are good together, right? We were supporting each other. Like I was there for my dad, he was there for me. And so, he was like, how, and before we got this house together, I was clean, right? So like, he was like, yes, let's do that. I was going to school, right? He did not believe that like a couple months later, after we did this together, that I'm going to be fucking trapping.
Yeah.
Right. And so there's all these people back there. And, my dad literally was like, you're bringing all these people over here that I don't know. I'm like, well, let me introduce you to
Let me
them.
introduce you to them. Let me get you to know them. Yeah.
They're really nice people.
Yeah.
Let's have a barbecue, Dad. We
Yeah.
can meet them all. So I'd be like, we had a pool in our backyard, and my dad would be like barbecuing, and I'm like, this is this guy, this is this, and then my dad's like, hey, and everybody's like, your dad's so cool. I'm like, yeah, but he has no idea what we're doing.
Yeah.
And he probably was like suspicious, like, why are all these people at my house? I'm like,
Yeah.
I have a lot of friends. Don't you know who I am?
Yeah.
I'm your daughter.
I'm popular.
I'm so cool. Like you were so cool. You had tons of friends, right?
Yeah.
And so like finally, like, it became a problem. My dad finds out, but like he was so like he just wanted the best for me. And like I feel like he thought like she's under my roof, like I know what she's doing. And he didn't realize the extent of what was going on, right? Like he probably thought I was just using, and these are my using friends and stuff, things like that. So yeah, I do believe our families are just as sick as we are, They go with they co-sign our bullshit sometimes, right?
Mm-hmm.
They enable us, like, I mean, it is what it is, right?
So what happened when you got pulled over? So then the task force.
Yeah, so they held me at gunpoint.
I'm waiting on that one.
And I get in the car and I'm just like, oh, okay, y'all, there's the task force. And, they're like, where's the drugs? I'm like, what drugs? And, like,
you want to buy some?
Yeah.
You too.
I'm looking for
them too. Oh, hey. You got some.
Yeah. And so like my last name is kind of hard to say. And so like they were like Mrs. Staniszewski. And I was like, oh my God. They're like, we know who you are. We know who you hang out with. You're last the Mohicans. Like, cause like a bunch of my friends had been busted, right? And they start telling me where I live, and they talk about my dad. And they say talking about my kid and like the people I'm running with, and I'm like, oh my God, stalkers, right?
Yeah. I'm popular.
I'm so cool. They're like, you're gonna tell us who you're getting this from, and I was like, no, it's and that you can't. I mean, that was me, right? So like they threw like everything at me, like they're like, well, you're never gonna be able to be a nurse now, like if you don't give us his name, like your kid's gonna go into CPS, like you're gonna lose everything. I was like, can I speak with my parents? Like, I need to call my dad.
Call my dad.
They're like, you need a lawyer. I'm like, I need my dad.
Yeah.
Right. So, anyways, I end up going, I get a felony, right? So like, cause I don't want to tell anybody. Yeah. Because it's my own shit. Right. So you have to like, own that stuff. Right. And so, the worst part about that is, my son was so young at the time, and, he found out through Facebook. Like they posted like the the article,
mugshot,
the mugshot, and also the clipping of like where it happened at Friendswood. And when he came to see me in jail, because he wouldn't answer my phone calls, he was like, "You lied. Like you said drugs were bad, and like I knew something was wrong with you. You're so skinny, and you're always up all night, and just act weird, and like you just lied to me. Like you're just a liar, right?" And like he's like
in jail when you were in jail,
yeah, through the glass.
How old was he at this point?
He was about 8. Right. And so like, I'm just like, fuck, like,
What did you feel? What did you feel at the time?
I felt like the shittiest person in the world. Like I'm telling this kid I love him, and like, it just like abandoning him and like lying to him, like always making excuses like, I'll take you there tomorrow, or like, we'll do this next weekend. Right. And like then those times would come, and like he was like, where's my mom? Right. Because the people in the drug world became more important than my own family, and that's the truth. It's sad truth, but that's what the reality of it, right? I'm like, I'm making money for you. Like I'm doing all these things for you. I was trying to buy his love, right? Because for being that absent parent, I would like, okay, so you want the new Xbox? Like I got you. Like, what do you want? And at one point he was like, I don't want all these things. I just want my mom. I'm like, I'm here. He's like, for now, right? Yeah. So, but yeah, so it's been a hard process. That's one of my biggest like regrets of anything. Like one of my things I've held on to for so long, like the guilt and shame of what I did to my child, growing up. And yeah, so
what's y'all's relationship like now?
We are amazing. We have a great relationship now. He's my little baby. I love him so much. I hope he's not watching this because he's 20. He's 20. He hates when I call him my little baby, but he is. Yeah, our relationship's great. Like this go around. I told him I was sorry, but I was like, I know you're tired of hearing me say sorry. Because when I had gotten arrested in 2019 and I was in jail, I was like, I hate being in jail. I'm in jail again. He goes, I can't fucking tell. That's exact words to me. He's like, you don't even. He's like, you love jail. I'm like, he's like,
I think you're visiting somebody there. I think you missed someone there.
yeah. And I got arrested on his birthday too.
No shit.
Yeah.
The second time or that time when you had the
This
drugs?
last time. Well, I'm on felony probation right now for 3 felonies in Brazoria County.
So what happened that one time with the drugs with the tax force? What happened? You went to court?
Went to court.
You had a charge of what?
They gave me, I had 3 felony charges, but I was with somebody when all this happened. So the first charge was definitely mine. The second time we were together at the scene, and he claimed everything because it was like, and then there was like they tried to enhance a paraphernalia charge, and like they were just trying to throw everything at me, right? And so they're like, if you sign for 10 years probation or 3 years TDC, we'll bring it down to 1 felony. And so I was like, okay, I'm gonna do the probation. And my parents came to see me before I signed, and they're like, you don't need to do probation. Go to prison. I was like, what? Why? Like, you can't do 10 years of probation. Like, they just knew my track record, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm like, are y'all going to take care of my kid? They're like, we've been doing this your whole life. Of course we're going to take care of your kid.
19 years we've been taking care of him. What do you mean? Another year?
Yeah. Don't worry. We got him. He's in good hands.
You may tell you something.
Yeah.
And I know I'm supposed to let you finish your story. My attorney told me they were going to give me 8 years probation or 2 years TDC time, right? And when I told my attorney, she says, take the 2 years. She goes, you're not going to make the probation, man. I took the probation. I took the probation, man, and I messed up a year or 3 months into it. I used again. And that's when I met Pat Sebesta.
I love him.
And I want
love
you to
you,
lead, I
Judge.
want you to lead into the story of meeting him. So go ahead.
Okay, yeah. So, anyways, I go to prison. I had a 3-year sentence. I did almost 2 years on it, which I was so shocked because, like, but all these things kept happening while I was in prison. Not with me, but like blizzards and all this other stuff. And so, anyway, so 2 years, I get out, and my first, I go to an NA meeting in Vigilance. That was my first home group, right? And I'm doing pretty good there. I only stayed clean though for about 6 months after my prison stint, right?
After you got out?
Okay. You weren't on no papers or nothing when you got out of
I still had a year.
Okay.
So I wasn't relapsing, like hardcore relapsing. I was like, well, after I realized I could, like, I only had, parole like once a month, and like I knew I was gonna have a drug test that day. I've been doing drugs. I know how long drugs stay in my system.
So after you got out, you used again.
6 months later, I did. Yeah. So like I said, I went to some meetings. I got Joy as a sponsor. And she was telling me I need to work the steps.
You did 2 years.
I did.
And then you used afterwards. Tell us about that.
You know what? You just like, you get out and they say change your people, places, and things, right? So like, I'm like, I need to call my friends. I miss them, even though the suggestions were like change your people, places, and things.
Right.
Right. But there was like, there's some people I just can't let go. Like that's how I felt at the time. Right. It's different today. Right.
You feel stronger.
I do. Right. Yeah. Cause like literally, like I was like, I have to change. I felt lonely at this first go around of my recovery because like I literally had like just my family and like, but that's the way it had to be. Right.
Was your self-esteem a little low at the time? Could I say that maybe you probably were, or no? Were your self-esteem really high like it is today? Because I see you probably walk around very proud nowadays.
I feel better.
You're very confident today. Was your self-esteem and your confidence, was it a little low at the time?
It was
when
so
you came
low.
out? Really?
Low self-worth. Like, I mean, I've always struggled with that, right? Like
we had all that wreckage going on that we just got out of. Tell us about that.
Yeah. So
Judge says he loves you too.
Yeah, Judge Sebesta, he's there. Shout out, man.
Judge Sebesta.
That's my dude. That's
Judge
your dude.
Sebesta saved my life. I'm gonna say
yours
that.
too.
Yeah, he's a great person. So I'll go fast forward to this part. But when I got out of relapsed, I would get clean for my parole visits and whatnot. And then I would go on like 6 months clean, maybe 3 months clean, right? And then I got this roofing job, right? Because I was actually had like some.
I remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had like 6 months clean at the time, and so like I was like kind of going to meetings. I wasn't doing step work, but I was talking to my sponsor, right? And I had told her relapse, and she was like, "Okay, well, you just need to start working these steps." I'm like, "I don't need these steps." Maybe I'll do a step 1 or something, or like, like I'm like amends. I don't owe anybody amends. I've already told my family sorry.
Yeah.
Which is selfish. That's totally that's not how I feel today. Right. And, character defects, me, no.
I'm Andrea.
I
A
don't
Ricky
have
fucking
a
Cruz.
yeah. I don't have a fucking problem. I like drugs. That's it. Plain and simple, right?
That's it.
They don't control my life.
Yeah.
At this point, I'm still slightly in denial, right?
Uh-huh.
Like going to prison was like, okay, I just don't need to sell drugs, right? So anyways, I'm doing the roofing thing. I'm like actually had been clean for like 9 months. Going to meetings once in a while, no stuff working and whatnot. And an old friend calls. And
It's always a freaking friend.
it really
man.
is, right?
Yeah.
And so I ended up going out with an old friend and used some meth, because that's the point. Like that's what I'm going to use. I'm an uppers kind of person, right? And so it just
Because you're not going to overdose on meth.
exactly right.
You're going to do what?
What? Overamp.
You overamp. Yeah, overamp.
Right?
Yeah.
So this is about 2017, right? And 2017. So I've been out of prison for like, good while and relapse, gotten clean, relapse, gotten clean. That's my vicious cycle. And so I end up relapsing and not full blown, but it led to it like, okay, that was fun.
Yeah.
Right. Like I forgot that feeling. I was like, I'm going to go get some needles.
Yeah.
Right. But I was like, I don't want to go into like Walgreens and like request needles. Like I'm just going to go to the feed store. Right.
Get a horse needle.
Yeah. So you do some desperate things in your addiction. That's crazy. Right. And so I ended up shooting drugs again. Right. And then one of my friends calls and she's like, hey, I heard you were like doing stuff again. I'm like, well, I'm using. And she was like, I have a proposition, right? You want to help me? And I'm like, help you with what? She's like, you know what? Selling drugs, right?
Uh-huh.
So I ended up started selling drugs again, and literally like from 2017 to 2019, I didn't realize how fast those years went by. At this point, like my son and I really aren't talking anymore. I'm seeing him on the weekends. He's living with his dad and staying at my dad's, and I'm not really there that much. So like I'm not the present parent once again. And just doing that, living the worst possible life ever. And towards the end of that time, I was just like really desperate for a change. In 2018, I was like, okay, my New Year's resolution, stop selling drugs, right?
Mm-hmm.
My husband, we weren't married at the time yet, but he was like, yeah, you need to stop selling drugs. Right. And so I had planned on stopping. And so I'm like, okay, the new year comes. I'm like, well, I still have these drugs. I need to get rid of them first before I quit. Right. And so there's always an excuse. Right. And so I end up going out and undercover cops in Elvin get me.
What? Alvin this time.
Yeah, they're like, we've been watching you for some time, Miss Stenoszewski.
You too?
I'm like, who the fuck is well, it's like everybody, like somebody had told on me, right? So like, but it's always a blessing in disguise, right? I'm so thankful for narcs that tell on me. Like, thank you.
Yeah.
You saved my life, really. Anyway, so
I don't think if anybody's ever said that before, bro.
Well,
yeah.
Thank you to the narcs. Yeah.
well, for saving me, like, like with these, I might be dead, right? If
Yeah.
someone wouldn't have told on me and I would have gotten busted and had to go to jail, right? So I end up catching 3 felony charges like within 3 months, back to back to back.
Oh shit.
And yeah, it was crazy, right? So I go to court and they're like, you're gonna probably go to prison. I'm like, I'll go to rehab. And so I went through this 30-day rehab at Pathways, right? But at this
But
point,
you didn't make that choice. They asked you if you wanted to go there. Or?
no, I didn't want to go to prison yet. Like, and I was still, they were going to put me in jail because I couldn't stop catching felony charges.
Right.
Right. And I'm on bond,
Right.
3 different companies. And so, I'm like, I'm volunteering myself to go to rehab, but it wasn't for the right choice. Right. I just didn't want to go to prison,
Right.
cause I was pulling up to the rehab, getting high. Right. And so as I'm there, so they agree on it. They're like, well, you still have to go to jail. I was like, I will pay for it. I have insurance,
Mhm.
And so, because I was like desperate not to go to jail, right? Not because I didn't want to stop using, and I didn't want to go to jail. And so, anyways, so I go to this 30-day rehab. Everybody's suggesting that I do 90 days, and I'm like, I don't need 90 days.
I need 10 days. Man, I got it.
Get me out of here,
Yeah.
right? So, like, I'm like, but they told me like the minimum of time that you could do was 30 days. So.
Mhm.
I was like, all right. So I go in there and I get out and I'm going to see my bond probation officer at the time because now I'm on bond probation
Mhm.
before I'm on real probation. And I get out of the rehab and then I finally go to court and I got all my NA sheets because I've been going to NA meetings now. Now I've been working some steps, right? And I'm like, I don't want to go to jail. I don't want to go back to prison. So, and I need to change my life. So now I've got some more recovery in me, a little more knowledge, understanding. and a little more willingness, to be honest with myself. And so, anyways, so I go before Judge Sebesta, and they give me 7 years deferred probation, right? And he's like, I'll see you in 10 months for your evaluation. I was like, okay, that's cool. I got this, right? I got this. That's the worst words for an addict to say. I got this. High ho silver away.
Yeah.
Right. So anyways, about 6 months into that evaluation, I relapsed.
What?
Yeah.
No.
Well, it's like at this point, like I'm still talking to the
You were
same
supposed
people.
to see him in 9 months. 6 months into it, you relapsed.
Yeah. So in 4 more months, I'm about to see this man.
No
right?
shit.
Yeah. And
so was it another friend?
It was, and I'm on probation now too, right? So I'm calling in, but like I'm not doing my call-ins, right? I'm like, my probation officer's like, you're gonna go to jail. I'm like, but why? He's like, you don't call in. You failed for at this point, I'd only failed for alcohol. That's where it started, right? And he's like, and you failed for Adderall. I was like, well, I have a prescription, which I did. So like that was fine, right?
Yeah.
And because I need some kind of substance in my body.
Mm-hmm.
So, and he was like, well, what's up with the alcohol? I'm like, well, I took a drink, a sip. You're like, you're such a liar, right? You're so full of shit. But anyway, so then it progressed into more. And then I wasn't calling in. And then then I would get, I was just doing these little spurts of like trying to be clean, not clean, trying to be clean, not clean. And so finally, it's about January, and I'm about to see, the judge in like another month or so. My court date was February 27th. And it's January 30th, and I'm doing the most, like I'm hanging out with people. I'm selling drugs again. And my son's birthday. So I'm like, I need to pick my son up, right? So I was sober that day. I had no drugs on me, but I'm driving somebody's car that has no insurance, no registration, and God knows what else, right? And I'm like, is there any drugs in the car? They're like, no, duh. I'm like, okay. So, I have my son in the car, and we get pulled over, and the cop's like, we need to search your vehicle. I'm like, okay, search the car, right? Like, I have nothing on me. They end up finding some like morphine pills that were like underneath the seat from like somebody who drove in the car prior to me. And they take me to jail, right?
What?
Yeah, in Harris County. So I'm actually on probation in Harris County and Brazoria County.
Oh, shit.
Doing the most, y'all, I swear. It's just crazy, right? So
Did you say an addict's life, when you do something, you do it big?
yeah, go big or go home, right?
That's right.
Do you ever regret? I got asked this last week. Somebody asked me this, said, Ronnie, do you ever regret being an addict? And I said, fuck no. Because I would not be where I am today if it wasn't for that. I learned so many valuable lessons.
Yeah.
Not having, doing without.
Right.
Like it really makes you humble and appreciate when you're able to get clean, and then you start to, take a shower on a regular basis.
Yeah.
Or have clean clothes to put on. Like it's a really humbling experience. And I'm a firm believer in, for me, God had to strip me of everything.
Yeah, totally.
I would have never listened until he said, here you go. Here's the street. This is all you got.
Yeah.
Hope you make it out.
Exactly.
What if, Ronnie, let me ask all three of you guys, man, what if we can get here, or as fabulous people that we are, beautiful that we are, can we get here? Can someone get here without being an addict, though? Do you understand my question? Can we get here? I mean, I'm sure out in your addiction, you were selfish, you were blah, blah, all these negative things. You too, and you worse. So, I mean, but I think some people can get here, be fabulous, great, fun-loving people without being a drug addict, alcoholic, and except for you. No, you're the exception. But do you understand what I'm saying?
I do.
I mean,
I do.
because look,
Yeah.
That's what we were
sometimes
talking about.
and I need you to
Yeah.
you have to finish that story. And I know we keep interrupting you, but
No, it's fine.
I always say to myself, listen, man, if the addict can get this without going through all the shit that I went through, overdosing 11 times, me putting my family through, went through. When you talk about your son, Andrea, man, it hits me hard.
Yeah.
It hits me hard, and it makes me sad because
so
I
sad.
remember
Yeah.
the promises that I made my son that I never delivered to him. All the times he waited for us to take a cruise, man, on my truck, that yellow truck that's out there. It's here for a reason.
Right.
And I used while I was driving that truck, and I made many promises to my son that I never kept to him.
Mhm.
That truck, like I said, it's here for a reason, and one day we'll talk about it. But if you've become a fabulous guy, you're becoming a better person, you too, and me as well.
By the way, he keeps skipping Lisa. He keeps skipping her.
Yeah.
She's great. She's great on your own. But but do you understand what I'm saying?
Of course.
When you talk about your son, man, I can relate so much, man. And it's again, it makes me sad and it makes me happy because of the relationship that I have with my son today, like you too.
Yeah, great.
They look at us today, man. And my son came and saw me in jail.
My son
And
did
he
too.
also the disappointment then in his eyes, man, and it was so heartbreaking to me.
It was.
And I'm proud that today I could work in his life. And I'm going to tell you, I got out, and all the things my kids wanted and they needed, I gave them everything. You know what I'm doing now? I'm taking away.
Yeah.
I've built the relationship with my kids so solid, man, that now I can be a father and say, no.
Yeah, for
No,
sure.
you can't have that. No, I'm not going to do this.
Healthy boundaries.
Healthy boundaries.
Yeah.
Because my sponsor, remember, he told me before he passed away, actually, Miss Andrews, my probation, I've been off probation. I'm going on 3 years. And she's become my personal great friend. And she says, you don't owe them anything anymore, Ricky. You're paid up.
Right.
You're paid up. You don't owe your kids. All you owe them is your love and understanding and compassion. That's it.
Yeah, totally.
So now you need to be a father and say, no, no, I'm not going to do this. Don't do it out of what's that word? Not regret, something that I keep owing them. Huh? Guilt. It's over.
Yeah.
You're paid up.
Right.
You know what I mean? So that, and so finish your story. Tell us about finish that where you left off.
Yeah, so I get arrested with my son's birthday. They found these pills, and I get bonded out again. I can't believe I get bonded out, right? I'm just like, whoa, like.
So this is 4.
It's number 4, huh?
Who's bailing you out?
My friends. They're
your friends.
my friends that are all in addiction.
They're putting you in and taking you out.
I'm like, I got
Awesome.
the drugs, so get me out.
Get me out. Yeah.
You will not get any more drugs. I'm the connect.
So you
right?
called it. You would call them. Okay.
They bonded me out like immediately. Like the next day when I got arrested there, I was out, right? And so I'm like dreading like seeing my probation officer. So I was like, you know what? I'm just not even gonna go see him. Right? Like I'm not gonna talk to that guy again. Like I'm just gonna.
He's trouble.
He is. He's trying to ruin
Every
my
time I
life.
see him, man, it's something negative happens.
It's all him. It's not me. It's never me. It's always the probation officer.
She said, I'm just going to avoid him.
Avoid this motherfucker.
He's got it out for me.
Yeah.
He's trying to get me.
That's right.
He told me you're gonna go back to prison. I'm like, no, I'm not.
I'm not. Come find me.
You go to prison.
You go.
Right. So anyways, like the night before, like I'm with a bunch of addict friends, right? And we're brainstorming this idea. I'm like, hey, do y'all think it's a good idea if I message my judge on fucking Messenger? Like to explain everything, like why
This is you.
Yeah.
Thinking this.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they're like, yeah.
Now you got my attention.
Yeah, they're like, you should message him.
Judge Sebastian?
Yeah.
Are you fucking serious?
The day before my court date, right? I'm on Messenger. And like, so I'm like, okay, so I'm telling him all these things, and like I'm just making up all these lies, and like, of course, like some of it's the truth, and like I relapsed because of this happened, and like I relapsed because somebody died, and blah blah blah, and just going on and on and on, and just like the pills that were in this car were not even mine. I'm going to court in Harris County, and so I get to court. I'm the first one there, right? This is like February 27th, my 10-month evaluation. And everybody, so I'm the first one there. So I'm like, okay, I'll probably be called first, right? To send me home.
Yeah.
You're doing great.
Yeah.
Keep up the good work, right?
Yeah,
5 gold stars.
Thank you for
Boom.
your
Yeah. 5 gold stars.
You are just a role model citizen.
That's right.
Doing the most.
Yeah.
So like everybody's in there and I'm like, why am I not being called up there? And so literally everybody gets called and I'm sitting there and like the courtroom's empty now. I'm like, oh my God, something's going on. And I'm like, I need to leave. Right? Because I literally I dropped my dog off at my dad's house that morning. And I was like, hey, I'll be back in a little bit.
I'll be back to get him.
Can you watch my dog? And he's like, yeah. He's like, how long have you been gone for? I was like, I mean, court, how did I go?
3 to 5.
Yeah. 2 to 10. 2 to 10 I'm
2 to
facing.
10.
Yeah. I don't know, Dad. I think I should be back in like an hour or so, right?
Should be back in about an hour.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, just, hurry up and get back. And I'm like, okay, thanks. Right?
2 to 10.
Yeah. So I get in there and he's like, calls me up there and he's like listing everything. And I'm like, but he's like, you're going to jail today. I was like, but no, why? That's like,
was he mad?
I mean, he was just like, you're going to jail. And I was like, trying to like call him like, well,
you were the last one there.
Yeah. And like at this point, like I don't really have a relationship with Judge Sebesta because I wasn't in drug court yet. I was just on deferred probation, right? So like I've only met him one time other than, this, right? And so like I'm calling out to him like, and I even lied. Like I said, I can't go to jail. My dad's home at sick.
He's got my dog.
Yeah, he's got my dog and all these things are happening. He's like, you're going to jail. Like you're going to jail. And so
what did you feel?
Oh, I was just like, fuck. I'm crying. But then like, it's crazy because after the crying and like the shock of going to jail, like all these things have happened and you're going to jail. Like, why am I in shock? Right. I know the game. I was like, I can finally sleep. Right.
Really?
I can finally get some peace. Right. And it was like humbling in a sense. Like it was weird how I felt. Right. It was unexplainable because I honestly was like grateful in a sense, right? Like, and I hate jail. I really do. I hate it. But I was grateful at that moment, so I get this good lawyer and he's telling me that, then COVID hits, right? Because and then they were like, okay, so everybody's going their court dates. Even people who picked up new charges were getting released because of COVID, right? So I'm like, oh fuck yes.
Hell yeah. Perfect timing. Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna be going to court soon. I'm gonna get out of here. Because three people in my tank were like, had new charges on probation. They're like, they just reinstated me. I was like, oh my God, yes. I'm so excited right now. Right. Well, then like that COVID got so bad. They're like, we're shutting the courts down. Nobody's going home.
Nobody's going nowhere.
It was like 3 days before my court date. I was like, ah. All right. So anyways, but I ended up sitting there for 6 months. Right. And I became a trustee and somebody had an NA book in there. And so, I started reading it and an AA book as well. And my lawyer is like, you have 4 felony charges. You violated probation. You have that charge in Harris County. That's the 4th one. He's like, you're going to have to do some time. I was like, no, I'm not. Like,
I'll take probation again.
Reinstate me. Like, and he's telling me I'm going to go to jail. Right. So like, I started desperately writing letters to Judge Sebesta, begging him for drug court, I'm like, please, like, I need drug court. Like, I need this. Like, I have to change my life. Like, if I go to prison, I'm not going to change, right? Because I've been to prison and it didn't help, right? And I mean, I'm a grown adult, but sometimes we need a little guidance, right, and support, and someone to show us the right way.
Right.
And so, I finally get a response from my lawyer. He's like, well.
Quit sending letters to Judge Sebesta.
Right. I'm like, have you heard from my judge? Have you talked to anybody? He's like, we're going to court. He's like, I've made us some, I've talked to the DA. He's like, we're going to go ahead and get you drug court. He's like, you should be going home today. I was like, what? And he tomorrow, the next day after at court. I was like, oh my God, yes. So thankful, right? Well, when I go in there, Judge Sebesta is like, you're not going home, you're going to rehab.
I like the song. Right?
Yeah. Trying to make me go to rehab. But I said, but he's like, no, you're going. And they had Brazos Place or Pathways. And I was like, I don't want to go back to Pathways because last time I was there, I'm like, I got this. I'm going to get out and I'm going to do great. Like, I'm good. And they're like, no, you're not.
Yeah.
Right. So they're like, you're going back to Pathway. And I'm like, no.
Pathway's a little harder.
Yeah.
It's a little tougher.
Yeah. And not even that. It was the pride, right? Like, I didn't want to go back somewhere where like I was like confessing, like, I'm going to do this. I got this and all this other stuff. So anyways, yeah. So I go to rehab and, but when I was sitting in jail, I had to remind myself, like, whatever it takes is what needs to happen. Right. So if they tell you to go to rehab, you're going to have to do rehab. And like, because I told myself in that jail cell that I can't do this anymore. Like, I'm too old for this, right? I'm like 35 years old. I'm so tired of living this life. I'm so depressed. Like, I want my family. I want to have a relationship with my son. Like, all these things, right? And so anyways, I went to rehab and did that and got out, went to IOP.
How long did you stay there?
Rehab?
That one.
I was there for 90 days. Well, it was a little extended because of COVID. So everybody at the rehab got COVID. And so we had to go home. And then so I had to go back in there, but I mean, that was fine. That was what we had to do. Right. And so I get out and then, I'm in drug court. And like I said, drug court, there's the beginning of my life's changing journey. Right. And it gives you a lot of accountability. Right. And guidance and support. And it's great. Like, I'm so thankful for drug court. Like, I really am truly. Like, there's a lot in the beginning you have to do. IOP meetings, like mandatory Mondays and whatnot. Right. But it's all to, it's all in the right. It's for our best interest. Right. So anyways, do all that. And I start going to meetings and I'm just, actually doing it this time, right? I get my sponsor and we start working the steps. We work through the steps and, it's just life changing. That's where I'm at today, right? So I want to be a better person. I don't want to be the same person I was. Like, I want to have things in life, right? I want a career. I have a career now, but these are things I was thinking, right? And so, like, recovery has brought me a lot of good things in life, right? So I got my car. I got a Jeep. It was like my dream car, and I bought that. I went to I went to school, got my insurance adjuster's license. I got married 2/22/2022. It's a cool date, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He seems real awesome.
Is he posting on there?
Yeah, I'm gonna read some of them in a little bit.
Yeah.
Finish.
Yeah. So he was very supportive when my father passed too. He was there for me. That was the first person that showed up to the hospital.
Is he a recovering addict too? Or no?
Yeah, he doesn't do meetings though and everything like that. So some people need him, some people don't, right? So some people just have that thing where they can just like stop doing it, right?
Right.
Unfortunately, I'm not one of those people.
Yeah.
He said he only smokes 2 joints. That's his knees and elbows.
Ah.
Wait, no, I said it wrong. Oh, go ahead. I'll read it again.
So yeah, I just it's been life changing, right? So I'm just so grateful to be where I'm at today. Like I'm reworking the steps now. I'm on step 1 again, and I attend meetings. I'm actually like really prevalent in my home group. It's Gigna. Am I allowed to say that?
Sure.
Okay. Anyways, but yeah, I'm just I'm grateful. So yeah.
All right.
Attitude of gratitude.
You got some awesome people in that group. I really I like when we come together.
Yeah, I love it. It's so great.
And the saying was, the only joints I blow are in my knees and my elbows. That's what he said.
Yeah, I thought that sounded kind of weird.
Yeah. Like your elbow joints.
Yeah.
Dude, we almost had a similar story, man, with Jester Besta. I hated him for a long time. Yeah. When he put me in jail the second time, man, I was motherfucking him in jail, and I was like, man, blah 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 blah. And I hope he's not. I mean, he's heard me say this before,
Of
but
course.
and I'm probably not the first one or the last. But you know what, man? Whatever he did, whatever he's doing the right thing for all of us.
He's amazing.
Yeah.
Thank
Shout
you,
out,
Judge.
shout out to Judge Pat.
Absolutely,
Pat's the best. So you're the bomb.
He is, man, and we're gonna be it's gonna be sad to see him go, man. And see who fills his shoes. It's gonna be hard.
They're
to fill.
unfillable. I'm just gonna
course.
say that they're
Of course.
unfillable.
Yeah.
He's like a father figure to so many people.
Absolutely.
He said he's very proud of you.
He shows up, man, to the in fact, we're gonna do the walk. Are you gonna do the walk?
Of course,
this year
it's
again?
mandatory.
We're gonna see you there. It is mandatory for you.
Yeah.
Mandatory Metallica, right? We're gonna be there too, I think, right? We're gonna be there to support. We're gonna do the walk as well.
That's gonna be so awesome. I saw you last walk, right?
Yeah, I
That was
know. We
great.
took a great picture
Yeah.
then, man. We're gonna be there again this year. In fact, and we're talking to what's her name? That she does the walk. She's in charge of it. What's her name? We're friends on Facebook now. I forget her name. I'm having a little we talked to her for a little bit, and we're probably gonna be doing some sponsoring.
Cool.
Yeah,
Awesome.
we want to do some sponsoring. So
That's
we're gonna
great.
get a little bit more involved, and we have some wonderful things going on with the women's shelter. We might reach out to you, see if you want to be
I would
involved.
love that.
Lisa is going to get involved in that. I would like to see you girls, you ladies. This one lady, she's like, I'm not a lady. I'm not a girl. I'm a lady.
I'm a lady.
I'm a lady.
I'm a grown woman.
I'm a grown woman. But Lisa and Rachel are in, and I think it's very gratifying. Is that the word?
Gratifying.
Thank you. For the women to help us and help themselves by helping empowering other women in recovery.
Of course, that's
You know
so
what I mean?
important.
Yeah, that would be cool. And like I said, Lisa and Rachel are going to put some stuff together, and we're going to put some stuff together too. And they're going to help us with, because we can't us as men, the program, we can't be too involved with the women in the house.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
We're going to depend on you guys and to try to help us out a little bit, whoever would like to.
Yeah, I think it's
The doors
important
will
to
be
help
open.
people in women's shelters and whatnot. Especially if you've been through stuff like that, you
Right.
can relate. Like I always say, like I'm more willing to listen to a drug addict than a psychologist or a therapist because they know exactly where I'm at and where I've been, and they know how I'm feeling probably more than likely. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's real.
But man, that was a great story, Andrea, man. And we have the applause of the Thank you, Andrea, for coming in, man. We really
Thank you for the invite.
Yeah, man.
It was great.
I'm glad man. It was so exciting to know that you were coming in and you accepted our invitation, man. Don't be a stranger.
I'm honored.
We want to see you come back, man. And And for the second part of your story, I mean, not the second part, because I don't think you're done. I know you have more in you. I would
Yeah.
like for you a recap, man. Maybe
Yeah, for
here
sure.
pretty soon. Would you be willing to accept an invitation to get to
Of
come?
course, that would be
Yeah,
cool.
that would
Yeah,
be awesome. What do
definitely.
you have to say, the Molinator?
Andrea, we want to thank you for coming to the podcast. We really enjoyed you. And for the people watching at home, the lie is dead. We do recover.
Exactly.
Hey, a couple of things real quick before we get off. I want to ask you. Okay, so there's somebody watching right now who's struggling. What's your best advice to that person?
My best advice to that person would be to am I allowed to talk about it?
Sure.
Okay.
You can talk about anything you want here. This is our podcast.
Well, I think, going through struggles, it's important to find a support system, right? Find somebody that you can find a group that you can get involved with. I was so hesitant about becoming part of NA, but that's really what saved my life, right? Like I said, like drug court got me to that point where it saved my life, but right, like NA keeps my life sustained, right? And I think if you're struggling, that you should reach out to go to a meeting. To be honest, share what you're at today, right? Get involved with the group, and find a sponsor. And I say that, and it sounds so cliche because everybody says that, right? But I mean, that's what's going to save your life. I mean,
can I tell you something as well? And I know that, Mr. Engineer, I know that we went over in time.
No,
this
you're
is so
good.
interesting.
No.
Your story is so interesting, man, that it's just time flew by. I'm going to say this, and y'all may not agree, but this is my experience. Not everybody in NA or AA is your friend.
exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Look, I've been in the program long enough. I've met some shitty people that are
Of course.
clean.
Definitely.
Okay. I won't mention any. I really won't mention any names this time, Mr. Engineer. I know you told me not to, but I have met some horrible people in recovery, man. And at the same time, I've met some people that are great. And Ronnie, we became friends there. That's where we met. And Raul, through social media and networking, we met. And we've become great friends, and we're building our relationship, we're building our friendship and everything every day that goes by. I don't have a sponsor. Okay. But I do have a therapist. I see a
okay. Hey.
therapist every Friday. But I do have, what I do have of something that's very important. I have a support group.
Right.
Man, I reach out when I'm hurting, man. I reach out to Raul. I reach out to the Molinator. And I have about a group of 4 guys that I reach out to when I have problems.
Yeah.
And we talk about it, and what I love about these guys, man, that they don't co-sign my shit. They tell me exactly what I need. They don't tell me what I need to hear. They tell me what
needs to be.
what
yeah,
is there
what
exactly.
it is.
Yeah. You must pay very well. Exactly. But
You weren't supposed to say that, Lisa.
I know, right?
I kind of wanted to read something that I read. If it
Go
is that
ahead.
okay?
Absolutely. Yes.
I can kind of like twerk it. I
No.
mean, tweak it a little bit so it
Man,
doesn't really
you
talk
take,
about.
Do what
you
you
take
want.
your time.
Is it okay? Just
It's
because like I
absolutely
wrote
okay.
this and I like to share this when I share my story. If that's okay.
Take your time.
Okay. All right. So I wrote this, guys, and I hope this helps somebody out there. So behind the disease of addiction are good people with real stories of struggle and victory. There is a deep human element in each story that is too often untold. Getting clean was not an easy choice, but it was a necessary one. The last go around, I knew I had to do something different. I needed to find myself, learn about my disease, and find strength in my recovery. I remember telling myself on multiple occasions that this can't be it. I can do so much better. I was created for so much more than this. Getting clean and staying clean takes a lot of work, as well as patience with yourself. I've had to learn how to be vulnerable and to share my feelings, but most of all, feel those emotions and feelings clean. This program has helped me to understand my defects and more and move forward with them in a positive way. The program has also taught me that addiction does not have to be the end of the road, but a life-changing beginning, a life where having your shit together is actually fun. It can be flawed and beautiful in all of its flaws. The program has changed my life in every part of my life, every part of my being, the way that I move, the way that I communicate, the way that I experience things, the way that I cultivate my relationships with people. I get to live with both sides of me, the good, bad, and the ugly. I'm able to maneuver things and figure out what's best for me. This program also celebrates you finding your truth. It celebrates living clean where each day is a victory. There's a whole movement of people who are all connected, a network of people who support you and love you like family, unconditionally and without reservations, regardless of who you are, what you look like, what you do, or what you've done. It doesn't matter. The lie is dead. We do recover. There is hope for the future. We can and will find a new way to live. I just suggest for the newcomer, Get a sponsor, work the steps, let the book speak to you and teach you, take suggestions, be open-minded and willing. Make your home group away from home. Whatever you do, you never have to use again. You never have to be alone again. It's not always rainbows and butterflies. There's days where I'm like, fuck it, I can't do this, but that's okay because we can. This is a program of doing whatever it takes to stay clean. And you can do this. You're worth it. The fight is worth it. And every day, never give up on yourself. Keep coming back.
All right. Awesome, man. Amazing.
Man, that was incredible. That was incredible. Like I was saying, you got so many people here. You got a support system that's insane. April said that you gave her goosebumps with that.
I love you, April.
You got so many. There's so many comments here. It's insane. So just know that you're loved by many. And it's crazy, and we really do appreciate you coming on.
I really
and sharing
appreciate
your
y'all so
story.
much. Thank you for the opportunity.
We you got to stay in touch. We want to come back, and I'll talk to you after we get off.
Okay.
So, you got any closing remarks?
The lie is dead. We do recover.
What do you got, Ricky? You got something last?
Man, no, that's it, man. I want to thank Andrea for accepting the invitation. I was so excited when she accepted, and she was just like gracefully, she's like, "I'm there, dude. Whatever
we gotta do, man." Yes, she said, "I'll do it." Say something, Andrea, without. Holy shit! Yeah, do the chipmunks. Do the chipmunks. And.
Last one. Yeah, that one. Hello? Is there anybody Hey, the lie is dead. We do recover. We do recover.